Do you remember any fads from your youth? Popular hairstyles, clothes?
Oh, the hairstyles was what, like they're coming back now, like the flip down here, maybe you'd have bangs, or either you part it and let it hang down and you'd put a little beret in each side of it and shingle it up the back like a man's, you know.
How about clothes?
Oh, clothes. We just had print dresses, not much of them. And if Mama could get us 2 around, that was 5 girls, so we wear one the first 2 or 3 days of the week and the other 2, whatever. Then you washed them and starched them and started over with them. Didn't have much clothes back then.
Who were your childhood heroes?
Well, I had a lot of friends, but Lee Douglas was one of my friends in the 6th and 7th grade, 6th and 7th grade. And I reckon she was the closest one. And I don't remember the little ones that good when we were in the little grades. I can't remember their names. I can remember the names, but like there was Riverses or Davises or Hancocks or Funderburks or Johnsons or like that.
What were your favorite songs and music as a child?
Oh, we loved to sing. My dad could play a guitar, pick a guitar. He could reel it, and he could play organs. Oh, I don't remember real young, like when we was maybe 4th and 5th grade, or 5th and 6th grade, we just sing every song we ever could hear of them. On Top of Old Smoky and she coming around the mountain when she comes, and and Red River Valley.
Your diapers are hanging, I imagine.
We sang them at church. Oh, I like the old rugged cross, and I like when we all get to heaven. We was pretty good singers when we was young.
What church did you go to growing up?
Well, I first went to a Baptist, and I joined the Baptist, Oakland, in Chesterfield. It's still there. Then we moved, and so there was a Baptist and a Presbyterian. The Baptist had service in the morning, 11 o'clock, and the Presbyterian had it at 2, like Sunday school and preaching. So we went to both of them. We went to one in the morning and none in the evening. Like I say, you didn't have nowhere. And you know, you didn't run over to somebody's house. You lived here and they lived a mile or 2 from you, so
right.
you stayed home.
It was a trip.
In your own little neck of the woods, as I say.
Were you ever mentioned in a newspaper?
Not as I know of. I was in the 4-H thing, what do you call it, at school.
Obituaries when somebody dies.
When my dad died.
And one Christmas our teacher gave us a little embroidery kit thing. It wasn't really embroidery thread, but it was different color thread. And we didn't have no spreads for our beds, but we had sheets and quilts. So I slipped out one of Mom's sheets, and I drew this little rabbit like they used to put in the window in the basket at school. You ever see that? Well, I traced it off on there with a piece of carbon paper on the middle of that sheet, and I embroidered it. I never had embroidery before, but I embroidered the rabbit in the basket and the flowers in the basket, and brought it back in and slipped it on Mama's bed. I wish I had that.
Yeah, that'd be something neat.
Wouldn't it though? Yeah. And if I would just do it now, I would, instead of putting the one little one here, I would put one there and one here and one here.
Yeah.
You know, but back then I didn't.
You were doing good just to get the one on there.
Yeah, but I embroidered it. I was pretty good with sewing with a needle.
Good.
With a needle. We didn't have them.
What did you think of that?
I can't remember. It's been so long. Yeah, she wasn't much to. She was thankful and all like that, but she wasn't much to brag, you know, and praise you for doing stuff like that.
Who were your friends growing up?
Well, just school friends and church friends. Was Lee Douglas and Helen Martin. Bonnie Clanton, and my cousin Vera Odom and Carson Odom. And there was Rollins in my little grades, I remember, and Davises and Riverses. But I can't remember the names now. So just my school and church friends. And then we played together. Us children played together. We'd make us a playhouse and draw it off on the ground like, and have the kitchen and rooms and lay sacks down. Fertilizer sacks down was our bedroom. The little broke dishes was our kitchen. Pieces of broke dishes.
What world events had the most impact on you while you were growing up?
Lord, I don't know that one, because it was out in the country and you didn't get much of the events. I reckon that happened after I got grown. You didn't get. We got Southern Planner and another country magazine, and that's all the outside we had, you know, just reading those pages. And your school books and your Sunday school books, going to church. Yeah.
There she goes, boom, boom, boom.
It says, describe a typical family dinner. Did you all eat together? Who did the cooking?
Mama.
What were your responsibilities at the dinner?
My mama and my oldest sister. Now, what was the other you said?
Oh, I just said, describe the dinner. Did y'all eat together as a family? Who did the cooking?
Well, the best dinner, I reckon, would be chicken and dumplings and peas and beans and corn, just like we have now. In the wintertime, collards and turnip greens and sweet potatoes.
Did y'all all eat together as a family?
Oh, yeah, always, yeah.
And did y'all eat every meal like that, or only on Sundays? Or
We eat it always. We eat breakfast and dinner together, supper.
did you have any responsibilities as far as the meal was concerned?
Well, no, I didn't learn to cook till later on in life. I wasn't. We had an older sister, and she could cook.
And I
think first biscuits I cooked was in 31.
What were your holidays like? Christmas and birthdays?
Well,
did y'all have any special traditions that y'all did, or?
We enjoyed Christmas because Mama would always cook what cakes you could get stuff to cook with, maybe chocolate cake and coconut cake and raisin cake and potato pies, just stacks of them. And take new broom straw and peel it off and put between them and keep them from sticking together. You didn't have wax paper back then. Yeah.
Did you have any special traditions at Christmas that y'all did every year, or something that you really remember?
No more than the dinner would be special. Christmas dinner, and the cakes and the pies we had to eat, and she'd always have a chicken.
How about birthdays? Did y'all do anything special for birthdays?
No, we didn't have no birthdays. They just come and went.
Like any other day. It says, how is the world today different from what it was like when you were a child?
Ooh, I couldn't tell you, but it's a lot different.
Yeah, that's a hard question.
Lord, it is, because they have so much this day and time, and children they just have too many toys. There's really no sense in wasting your money. And they won't play with them when they got a whole bunch of them.
Right.
They'd much rather get in your cabinet and get your lids and play with them than a toy.
It's true.
I think they should have 2 or 3 toys, but sensible toys, you know, and maybe if it's a boy, if he can have a wagon, and maybe we didn't have no bicycles or nothing like that either back then. So there's a lot of difference in it.
Who is the oldest relative you remember as a child, and what do you remember about them?
That was my grandfathers and my grandmothers. I loved them and loved to go to their houses.
Did they live far away?
Huh?
How far away did they live?
Oh, long ways to walk. My grandfather Cassidy lived farther away from us when I was growing up than
See, the thing about me is I'm 30 minutes.
where we lived, where Grandpa had already died, and we moved last year. I call it Old Place, which I own today.
9 times out of 10, it's very unusual.
We all had it together. My mom bought every one of them's part out of it, and then when we all got our parts, each one would sell to the other and sell to the other. So it got down to me and my youngest sister, and me and her had it together, half and half. She come along and says, Vinny, I'll take this or I'll give this. So I said, I'll take it. So I paid her for it.
And that's the old place?
That's the old place.
And that's in Chesterfield?
Chesterfield.
So that was your grandfather's property?
Yeah.
And you still own it?
Yeah.
Well, that's neat. I'd love to know where that is.
And I got pine planted on it. Then there's some of them. The license was planted, I think, in '85, and then some he folded that on. And they've been thin one time. You thin them
Right.
so often, skipper road, you know. And then I owned that little land at the county line in Darling, Chesterfield County that I give Shirley and Jeanette. And I had it planted in pines, but it was the wrong kind.
Oh.
The loblolly, they won't grow on sandy land. Longleaf pines grow on, make good timber.
Right.
Longleaf pines. On sandy land, they'll grow good in sandy land. They could sell the sand.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can sell the sand, yeah, but yeah. One side of the place is much better than the other 50 acres I had down there.
Do you have any stories that come down about your ancestors?
No, not too many, they didn't come around that much.
Do you have any famous or infamous relatives? Just because, like, I know that there's this old story of this, you know,
Yeah,
great grandfather that did such and such, or
one of Mama's sister's children, we were kind of close to them. That was Bonnie and Craig Mishaw, and Aunt Della Odom was our other cousins that we was more around. Some of our cousins we didn't get to see much. But those two, we did, one on Mom's side and one on Dad's side. Is that the end?
no, you got just a few more. What was the full name of your husband?
Jasper Bell Dixon.
And when was he born?
November 13th, November the 21st, 1913.
And how did you meet him?
I really don't know, just come by, that's all I know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I really don't remember.
Did you date a lot of men?
I don't know. No, I sure didn't. I don't remember the first date we had. Done.
What would you do with him on dates? Where would y'all go?
Well, you mostly stayed home, sitting in rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get to go, maybe go to the show in Hartsville. And I remember when we come to Hartsville, and the first time I'd ever been in a show, I couldn't help but dodge when the horses would run towards me or the train. I would want to do this or that to get out of the way. Yeah. But I never had been to a show until in '32. I used to, we'd have to walk to Chesterfield most of the time. And she would take some of us children with her, and I'd walk with her. And maybe sometimes she'd take two of us. And Dad would take us sometime. He had an old truck with just a body on the back of it. And he would take us girls around, and the boys too, the two younger boys. Little, yeah.
What was it like when you were proposed to? And where did it happen?
That I don't know either. To neither one.
Where and when did you get married?
Let's see, November. Wait a minute. August the 19th, 1933 to Jack Dixon, and April.
August of 33.
April the 26th of 1945.
No. That ain't right.
Do you have any special memories from your wedding day?
Huh?
Not really.
How would you describe your husband?
That's a hard question to ask.
Especially with us sitting here, she don't.
Or your first husband?
Either one of them.
Either one of them?
Yeah.
What did he ask?
What did you ask, Scott?
I said the first husband.
Oh,
That's our
he's
dad.
a nice guy.
She said what?
She said he's a nice guy.
He's Jasper Dixon. That's
Neither
the
one of
father
them
of
went all that
engineer.
good.
He worked at Sunoco. Yeah, we had two football jacks. I had
I
a
love to dance.
What do you believe the key is to a successful marriage?
Being truthful and all that. I said that one thing I could say, I had never went out, or no, none of my husbands, I'd been good to them, and whether they was good to me or not.
Best thing you can do is keep your mouth shut.
Well, that's one thing that's good, because you can't win, not much.
And then when they ain't looking, you knock the crap out of them. And
You
run.
did interview Jeanette.
I know. I have to do her next.
Yeah,
Let's see. How did you choose your children's names?
I named them all.
You named them?
I named them. Only one that I didn't have nobody to tell me or say nothing, name it this or that, was Amos. And when Amos come along, Gus said something about naming him John Amos, and I didn't like Amos at that time. The John, well, I liked the John all right, because I had Uncle John. So I named him Amos Salih. I did put him, we called him Amos, and now I like Amos, okay.
Yeah, it's good.
But Amos and Andy was raging back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did name them all, and I named them, I didn't especially name them. I named them the name of my aunts and uncles. I had one John, and I had a great uncle Frank Thurman, and I didn't have a Randolph, but I had a George Randolph, and Joseph Richard. So that was my dad's name, was Joseph, and Richard was my grandfather's name. And my dad's name was Joseph Alexander. So Frank was named Franklin Alexander. And Jeanette was named, I just named her Catherine Jeanette. And then, well, it was a movie star named Janet. Her name is Janet, not Jeanette.
Right.
And then when Shirley come along, I tended to a little girl named Grace DeFairs. So I said if I ever had a little girl, I was going to name her DeFairs. And I forgot it was Jeanette, but I named Shirley DeFairs. And I was going to call her DeFairs, but Miss Dixon couldn't remember that one too good. That was her grandmother, because it was an odd name. And Rebecca, that's my catoe, I named her Rebecca Elaine. And one of my, Jeanette has one named after me, I guess, and my daughter, sister. We called her sister, but her name was Ann, Hilda Ann. She was the afflicted daughter I had.
What did you enjoy doing with your children? What was something your family did together that y'all enjoyed?
What did you enjoy doing with your
Well, I enjoyed with just being with them at home. We didn't ever go no places out, like, you know, to the beach or no place like that. Just having them at home and taking care of them. I never left them. I kept them and tended to them.
What did you do for a living? I guess you took care of all those kids. Did you work after you got married?
I worked at Sunoco just during the war, in the first 40s, a year or two. And that's all the work I ever done besides housework.
Was your husband in World War II?
Neither one. Their dad would have had to win if he hadn't got killed. But Gus missed it on, I reckon, the family he had. Because he had 8 children, and I had 2 when we married. But there's 4 of his already married and out. We had 6 to start with, and then we had 9. But I named all my children. They said my dad named all of us, so maybe, I don't know.
All right, 3 more questions. Of all the things that you learned from your parents, what do you feel was the most valuable?
Well, for my mother was saving.
She saved her money?
Yeah. And she didn't have no education much at all. She couldn't hardly write her name, but she learned to count that money she'd stack her nickels, here, quarters, or dimes and quarters, and dollars, and then she'd 1, 2, 3, 4. How she learned to count it, and learned to count paper money too. And she was saving. She really was. And she was.
Well, my kids have a papa.
More industrious, I reckon you'd say. She was everything she could sell out of her garden. She would sell it, and she would can peas, beans, and soups, and people would buy that from her and stuff like that. She'd always raise her a hog, and she had chickens, and she'd sell her eggs, and just any way she could make a nickel, she made it.
That's good. Good for her.
Mm-hmm.
What accomplishment in your life are you most proud of?
Say that again.
What accomplishment in your life are you most proud of?
And what I saved, I reckon.
What you saved?
What I saved after I got started.
What did you save?
What did I save?
Or is that the money you made at Sunoco that you saved? Or?
Yeah, I put it on interest, and like I say, moved it from bank to bank. And if I got any along the way, I added it to it. I got some money from Mama when she passed away. She had this land in Chesterfield, and she had a home out on the Bishopville Highway, and she sold it. You know.
What's
She
the
had
one?
two. She had 2 houses out there, and she sold it. And they divided that money with us. So, and she had a little in the bank where she paid her funeral expenses were paid. She had a little. She divided it. It was divided around among us. And I put all that in the bank.
So she was living. I guess your father died before she died.
Yeah, my father died in 1931, and she died in 1974. I think she died in 1974.
Sure says about them.
She lived a good many years after Dad.
So she had to make her own way.
So in Chesterfield, when we lived up there, before my daddy got killed, she would always figure some way to get her a cotton patch, an acre or 2 of cotton. And she would get it planted, and we worked it most with a hoe. And one time me and my sister plowed it with a garden plow and tied us a rope to it, and I'd pull, and there wasn't a hoe to handle, and we changed. And she had 3 bales of cotton when my dad got killed. And she taken that and buried him. He wouldn't have had nothing to bury him with if it wasn't for that. And she tried to get my brother to stand for the bill and let her wait till the cotton went up. He wouldn't, and no time after he passed away, the cotton went up. She'd have got, say, maybe double for her money. But he wouldn't, and so she paid it.
How did he die?
He got killed on a lumber truck. He was going to Chesterfield and Mama would give him a little money she had to get some coconuts and chocolate to cook cake for Christmas. And he went with this man, and they used to haul lumber on each side of the truck, and there was a space in between, and he was in that space, and it started back down the hill, and I think the lumber.
Got it.
Yeah.
What is the one thing you want people to remember about you? What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
Maybe you should ask Jeanette and Shirley that. Well, I've always been honest, and I've always tried to live right too. And so I guess them would be 2.
Anything else you want to say?
No, that's enough.
All right, thanks.
That's enough.